So good morning again to everyone. My name is Neera Nandi, and I want to welcome you to the third annual conference of the Indian Philanthropy Forum, and want to thank all of you in particular for making it so early in the morning and committing all of this time from what I know is an extremely busy schedule for all of you here. That being said, we have an action-packed day where there's barely time to breathe or even go to the bathroom. But please, this is like our living room for the day, so we really want you to be comfortable, be interactive. Obviously, if you must answer your phone, if we could ask you to do that outside of the room, turn your phones on to vibrate. We realize you're all really busy, and so people will try to reach you, but if you could do it outside, that would be great. We will have people coming in and out throughout the day, so you should also feel comfortable to move up or sit back, but this is our home for the day. And wanted to just take some time to reflect before we move into what this day looks like on what the past year has been for us. And so many of you who have been supporting us are probably thinking, wow, last year's IPF was just around the corner. And it's 12 months in a year. And last year we actually moved our IPF from what we typically do in March, like this year, to June, because we had to give the spotlight to Bill Gates, who said they were coming into town on exactly the same date, so we felt we couldn't really compete. But if you look back on the 8 months, we've been working tirelessly, more like the Indian Philanthropy Forum team has been working tirelessly to really build this dialogue around philanthropy. Most recently, many of you who are here today attended the event we had called Giving Forward, where we were lucky enough to have Peggy Dulaney, who's David Rockefeller's daughter, join us in a conversation with Rashmi Podar about giving and how that can be more strategic. Also over the year, we've really worked on placing over 1,000 impressions on adolescent girls and empowerment. And today we're very excited with the support of the Kiowa Trust to really bring you this research report, which I think many of you can pick up in the back. And so just in the beginning, I'm going to go through some of the materials so you'll see how it all kind of comes together. So please take a moment to go through this. The idea of these reports are really to help you think about being more strategic and what are some key areas where if you were to give to empowering adolescent girls would have the most impact. Then, excitingly enough, we were able to close Nourishing Our Future, a giving circle, which many of our members are here today. And we have 6 spots filled for our adolescent girls Owning Her Future circle. And so those of you who are thinking, what on earth is this circle thing Neera's talking about? We have a few posters in the back that have tried to describe the impact we've had on Giving Circle 1, 2, and 3, and many of the members are here today that can talk to you about the impact there. And we have 2 circles open, Owning Her Future, as well as Leveraging the Dividend. And that's the other research report, which is also in the back. We have a conversation today as well with 2 leaders in this sector that are going to really help us think through the issue of skills development. Then we had our launch in Delhi most recently with the Dasra Social Impact alumni, now alumni. The group graduated yesterday evening, which some of you joined. It was a fun-filled evening. What's Up Bharat hosted us, and that's where we had a conversation about crafts and philanthropy. With the support of the Rothschild Foundation, we are putting a similar sector mapping of crafts and where philanthropy can have an impact on the sector. Then we had our first international roadshow in Singapore, of all places, and we have some supporters from there here today, so welcome. It's our real attempt to move out of India and really tap into this really building interest of giving into India, and we've noticed a lot of interest there. And then finally, building a philanthropic dialogue amongst private wealth managers and the media, which will be here today. And lastly, there's one of my own. I'm a fellow of the Aspen Institute. Part of the Institute, you're required to do a project that you feel shapes you and can contribute something to society. So if you see this somewhat wacky, interpretive gallery in the back, there are posters which really try to capture interviews that I've done with really leading women philanthropists. And we have Aditi here today that will speak this morning, who is one of the voices that I've tried to capture. Now, as you go through this book, you will notice that I have done this entirely by myself and without the superb support of my communications team, and you will see that there are some spelling mistakes. So ignore them if you may. We will run another run, and I will have my team support me there. So I hope you do enjoy those posters. I want to thank all of you who are here today for all the support you've given in the past year. Now let's move to what this day looks like today. We have really great speakers that have committed to really sharing their motivations, their experiences, and their expertise. And my team has designed this lovely piece, which has all the backgrounds of the different speakers. So we will not go through each bio when we move into the panel conversations, with the idea that you can just sit back and sort of go through this here. I hope everyone has had a chance to pick up this folder. This folder is what will give you a perspective about Dasra, the different giving circles that we do, and the agenda and our supporters. And so don't forget to turn back. We tried, my team really wanted to save paper, but I was like, people don't turn back, so please turn back. If you may, to just go through this and spend some time just sort of understanding how all the different things that Dasra does really does sort of fit in. About it for welcome again. I'll invite, will sort of inspire us all on the base of philanthropy, and then we'll move into the panel conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, and good morning. I apologize for the late start. We always try at Dasra to maintain timings, but realize early in the morning there's quite a bit of traffic to come all the way down to South Mumbai. So we're half an hour late in starting, but our goal is to sort of get back on track by middle or even early afternoon, so I apologize for that. First of all, thank you. Thank you all for coming today. Thank you all for supporting philanthropy in India, and thank you all for being strategic givers. In coming up with the speech, I sort of looked at numerous quotes online and realized that, I mean, Aristotle, BC, had really the same concerns. And I'd love for you guys to sort of read the quote instead of me reading it for you, but things haven't changed. Other philanthropists have said the same thing. It's easier to earn money than to give it away. And I've been thinking about why that is. And in, I guess, the last 3 years, I've been very fortunate to have one-on-one conversations with over 150 philanthropists in India and abroad to really understand their concerns about giving and how this relates to sort of philanthropy and development overall. And really the crux of it lies where typically one who's giving their money understands the amount that they've given and are extremely concerned about how that amount has actually been spent. Makes logical sense. That's how we do it in the business world. How has your money been spent? But if that's the case, it should be easy to give away money. Why does everyone make a big deal out of it? Why do we need conferences such as this that all of us come together and actually spend a day thinking about giving money away? And really the crux of the issue is that you're not giving money away. You're actually trying to solve a problem that humanity has had since the beginning of time. And I think that shift in mindset of realizing the solving of a problem, of an issue, whether it's adolescent girl empowerment, child malnutrition, toilets and sanitation, that's really the premise that each and every one of you here today has on top of your mind. And in order to solve these issues, which, as I said, has been unfortunately there since the beginning of time, you really have to think about it. You really have to understand. You really have to discuss with others and see what their viewpoints are. And most importantly, you really need a partner. And I think that's really the premise of the Indian Philanthropy Forum. It's to create that discussion, that dialogue, and that thought process around solving a problem. This is not about protecting your 5 lakh, 10 lakh, or 20 lakh grant. If that's your concern, this is probably not the right forum for you. But if your concern is we have more cell phones in Mumbai versus toilets, then you have to really be here. You need to look at these reports. You need to understand from social entrepreneurs who've devoted their life to make these changes and see what their challenges and difficulties are, and then accordingly provide them the capital and resources needed to create the impact. Our model at Dasra has been very much aligned to the past that both Neera and I had at Morgan Stanley. And really the crux of this, once again, thinking about solving a problem and not protecting your 10 lakh donation, starts with research. How are we, as a society, going to solve these issues that no other society has ever solved? How do we know what's even going out there in India or abroad? And how do we understand or even identify the root cause of the problem? The research reports, which Neera talked about earlier, are 6 to 9 months of work that we spend meeting over 100 organizations and experts, understanding what the problem really is to begin with. To give you an example, when we started off our journey with the Piramal Foundation last year, and they were very gracious in giving us sort of a broad focus on health, it was after we spent time understanding the issue of health, we realized, you know, if you can actually solve malnutrition at the ages of 0 to 3 years of age, you're actually creating significant impact long term. And it was after we dug deeper into that, we realized urban India has worse of a problem than rural India in terms of malnutrition. This may be counterintuitive. We all think it's a food security issue. But reality is there's import systems in place, which urban India does not. I'm sure many of us have individuals that come to our house and help us with the cleaning or the cooking. None of us give maternity leave. None of us think about what to when both husband and king. And really, this research helps like the issue is that after research, you need planning. We highlight and speak to numerous organizations and understand very quickly that these phenomenal, inspiring social entrepreneurs don't really have the time to step back and actually put a plan in place on how they're going to strategically scale their initiatives. They're going in and day out, fighting fires, trying to figure out what their team needs are, what the latest government bill has affected their organization, or the latest closing of a slum. They don't really have the time to plan. And we as philanthropists, we don't want to give them that time. Take a few weeks off, attend a training, understand from your peers what you should be doing as opposed to what you're doing now, and really take that time to plan like any other business entrepreneur would want to plan. After planning, as philanthropists, it's extremely important that we allow these founders and these entrepreneurs to take risks. Without taking risks, they're not going to solve these issues. And that does mean giving unrestricted capital. That does mean allowing them to try 3 or 4 different options and then decide which one is working. Yesterday, as Neera mentioned, we had 42 social entrepreneurs graduate from our executive education program, Dasra Social Impact. And each and every one of them in the last 3 years have tried 10 different models at least before they've honed in on one that they're going to scale. And this is the risk capital that these organizations need, risk capital that we're familiar with, again, in the for-profit sector, but for some reason, we forget about it when we're supporting nonprofit organizations or social entrepreneurs. Collaboration. At Morgan Stanley, I remember helping numerous companies through roadshows, having them meet numerous of investors going across the country, many times across the world, to book build, and bringing in as many different stakeholders into the process, realizing that it'll mitigate the risk of the company and ensure that different perspectives come in. Collaboration is something we don't see in the sector. Ashok Advani yesterday moderated a session amongst 3 extremely successful foundations and asked the question to each and every one of them, do they collaborate as foundations? And they all said they can do much, much more. Donors are also in the same category. We have 3.3 million NGOs in our country today, 1 for every 400 individuals. And every single one of those organizations was started by a philanthropist. And I think it's a time that we realize that we need to collaborate with others because one person cannot solve these issues. Mentoring. Mentoring is talked about around the world, yet is again something that these social entrepreneurs do not have access to. We've been successful as a country to move a large population out of poverty over the last decade, as well as build one of the strongest economies globally. That's happened through business sense and mentoring. And this is what these social entrepreneurs need. And finally, funding. Long-term funding. Changes do not happen overnight. If you expect them to happen overnight, you're going to be band-aiding the issue. You're going to create more disruption in the communities you're trying to help, as opposed to actually creating impact. It's funny because you look at these words, and I bet you they're the same words that Stanford Business School, Harvard Business School, Wharton talks about in their business every single day to their students about building the best companies in the world. And we use those exact same words for philanthropy. When we started this organization and really launched the Indian Philanthropy Forum, it was really to pose the question to philanthropists and say, if you're so good in your business world to create networks, to create impact, to bring groups together and fund businesses and scale them to be the best globally, why can't those exact same views, skills, and support systems be transferred to the nonprofit sector? Now, I realize each and every one of you have devoted quite a bit of time to spend today, and many of you have to leave and are spending half a day. And I think that's fabulous. At least you're getting a taste of this. But reality is, to solve malnutrition in India, it's going to take more than a day, unfortunately. And I think that's why you need to depend on and meet as many people here as you can, because you won't be able to do it alone. You won't be able to take up this challenge by yourself and run your businesses at the same time. But there are other people here who face the same challenges, and I think if you interact with them, you open up your networks to them, and honestly talk about your hesitations about giving with them, you'll figure out a collaborative way on how to solve problems. And that's really the crux of the Indian Philanthropy Forum, is to create this discussion, dialogue, and this community of strategic givers in India, and for people, as Neera suggested earlier, from outside of India that want to create impact here, but really need help in doing so. I think today's going to be a fun-filled event. We have numerous speakers from India and abroad, and I think lots of expertise. And I think it's an honor, again, that you guys are here spending half a day or a day with us, but hopefully realizing over time, to solve India's problems, we're going to spend much, much more time than a day. And it's not just writing checks. It's much more than that. And I think all of you can attest in your business world that if it was as easy as writing checks, you would not have a sort of time constraint.